and online to the Coalition for Smarter Growth and Rise Prince George's County Executive Teach-In. We were hoping to gather a bunch of community-based advocates, Prince George's neighbors and residents, and allies to talk about how essential housing development and production and affordability is to the economic growth and shared prosperity of all Prince Georgians, not just in this moment where we're having a national housing crisis, but also to take advantage of the once-in-a-generation opportunity that we currently have here in the county to maximize transit-oriented development around both our Blue Line and Purple Line corridors. For about 5 years now, Rise Prince George has been a small but mighty group of advocates working together across sectors and community-based organizations to fight for 3 simple things. One, activating great places around transit and trying to make sure that we support the neighborhood identity formation and development of a lot of our established communities in Prince George's that have long been left behind. The second is to make sure that we have affordable and accessible housing for all. Because as we know, housing is most people's primary expense. And one of the things that we are currently dealing with as our nation deals with the cost of living crisis is how do we make it possible for all of our family, friends, and neighbors to afford shelter, especially in this region where we're having such economic dislocation, both today and for the foreseeable future. But the last thing that Rise Prince George's really works on is fighting for what I like to call sustainable transportation, which is just basically making sure that people can find ways to live, work, and play, regardless of whether or not they have a car. And in doing that, we've spent the past 5 years working with an incredible array of partners, several of whom are going to make presentations today to help illustrate some of the great work that they've been doing to lay the groundwork so that the next decade can not only be Maryland's decade, but Prince George's decade. And so with that, I wanted to first take a moment to acknowledge and introduce the folks that are actually hosting us today, and was hoping that Pastor Mike Dixon from Solid Rock Church could come and offer some greetings and a few remarks. Pastor Mike.
Thank you, sir, and thank you all. And I'm sorry that it is hot in here. We'll try to take care of that once I step down from it. No, it's not just you, man. It's me as well. Thank you all for making time to be here, and especially you all who were here just last week for a conversation with our disabled community. And I just want to let everyone know who I am. My name is Michael Dixon. I'm the associate pastor here at Solid Rock Church, and one of our values is to connect with our community, because we believe, if you know anything about the teachings of Jesus, you know that after loving God with everything, that's a paraphrase, that the next greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. So even though right now I am fine with the housing that I have, my mom is fine with the housing that she has, but I see us growing in some ways, and I understand that there is a housing crisis that is national, and it is also local as well. My own mother-in-law had to move to Connecticut to have affordable housing, and she's trying to make her way back here because we've convinced her she needs to be close, but now we have to figure out how we're actually going to do that, right? That's a nice thing to wish, but I want to say that we are honored to love our neighbors by hosting this Prince George's County Executive Candidates Briefing, along with Rise Prince George's Enterprise, HAND, HIP, LISC, Capital Market, CGS, and SEED. We know that conversations, briefings, and action along the lines of what will be discussed here today are outpaced by the need in our community. Therefore, again, I would like to thank you for prioritizing participation today. And I would like to just ask you, as a native Prince Georgian who's very proud as Kevin Durant was when he shouted out Prince George's County after they won that championship, the diversity that we have, who we've been, is changing in large part due to our economic situation and how expensive it is. And I would like to ask our candidates in particular. I know it's hard when we have budget shortfalls and things of that nature, but I do believe that there is a moral responsibility to marry political will along with that moral responsibility to care for the least of these in our community. Thank you all for being here to try to figure out how we can do that in these trying times.
Thank you so much, Pastor Dixon. And as Pastor Dixon said, we have a really amazing set of community-based organizations, housing counseling agencies, affordable housing developers, and other community development advocates that have partnered with us to help make today's event a really big success. Before we get to the content and the meat of our agenda, I wanted to give all these folks a chance to introduce themselves and to introduce some of the organizations that they work with. Thanks.
I'll say hi first. Stephen Palmer, Director of Public Policy at the Housing Association of Nonprofit Developers, or HAND. We are a membership association for the many professionals working in the affordable housing industry in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia region. Our members run the gamut for all the people who have a hand, pun intended, in building affordable housing, from the developers to the architects to the contractors to the lawyers to the lenders to the syndicators, et cetera. You're going to hear from a bunch of hand members today about the deep need for more affordable housing in Prince George's. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Prestel, and I'm the Executive Director of Housing Initiative Partnership, HIP for short. And we're a nonprofit affordable housing developer and counseling agency homegrown here in Prince George's County. We've been serving the community for 35 years. We do everything from single family homeownership to multifamily rental housing. We have a robust housing counseling program where we help everyone from homelessness moving into permanent supportive housing, all the way through homebuyer education, foreclosure counseling, rental counseling. So we really do soup to nuts with housing. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much to HIP and to HAND for being really amazing partners in what we're doing. SEED is also another community development corporation that has helped to co-sponsor this event. And we are doing this all in concert with the Coalition for Smarter Growth. So I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank Stuart Schwartz and Cheryl Court, who is in the back, helping to manage some of our technology, for helping to make all of this possible. So today, before our candidates speak, we have a few candidates that are county executive candidates, as well as we've invited candidates that are running for the special election in Council District 5. But before they speak, we wanted to have some presentations on what we need to do to really advance the ball as it relates to housing and economic development from 4 sets of subject matter experts and stakeholders and partners in this work who have been really laying the groundwork so that we can have a special moment to create inclusive growth over the next 10 years. And the first of those sets of speakers is Brian Franklin, the Deputy Director of LISC Local Initiative Support Corporation, DC. LISC is a national community development financial institution and capacity building and technical assistance organization that helps communities all over the country, not just in the DC area, develop housing, create dynamic, vibrant, mixed income neighborhoods, and supports and builds the capacity of organizations and average people to help make that possible. Part of what's exciting about LISC DC's work in Prince George's and in Maryland is that it's been a growth and an extension of their work. So when Prince George's got started, there weren't necessarily community banks and some of the other tools that they offer that were actively working in partnership with Prince George's County government and community-based agencies to make this happen. So I wanted to have LISC kick off this conversation with how they've entered the space and some of the groundwork that they've been laying for inclusive growth along the Blue Line corridor. Brian.
Hell yeah. Microphones and tall people. All right. We'll leave it. Can you all hear me okay? You can hear me in the back? Cool. Well, thank you, Bernard. Thank you, county executive candidates. Thank you, Pastor Mike, and for everyone here with us this afternoon, both online and in person. As Bernard said, my name is Brian Franklin, and I serve as the Deputy Director of LISC here in DC. He gave a fantastic introduction to our organization, so I'm going to skip that. But I'm also a Prince George's County resident. This is the county where I bought my first home, where my wife and I bought our first home. It is the county that my daughter was born. It is the county that I have and my family has been honored to lay down roots in. And a huge part of that is because of the way that it represents us. It's because of the history and the legacy of Black excellence. And so as I think about our work in the Blue Line corridor, which I'm here to talk a little bit about, but also going forward, that is what excites me the most. We have spent the last 4 years building relationships with stakeholders across the Blue Line corridor, elected officials. I see Councilmember Downing from Fairmont Heights here this afternoon, local residents, small business owners, developers, anchor institutions. And we've been working largely in the Capitol Heights, Fairmont Heights, Sea Pleasant area to find common ground across communities that, while close in proximity, have sometimes struggled to walk in lockstep with one another. And we haven't just listened and learned, although we've done a lot of that. We've also invested. So to date, LISC has invested a little over $5 million to support new housing projects, to support new community initiatives and other community real estate driven projects. And we're just getting started. But before I dive more into what comes next in the Blue Line, I want to take a step back. One of the beautiful things, as Bernard mentioned, about being part of a national organization is that we do get to see pictures of work similar to ours across the country and across the region. And over the last few years, I've had the privilege of seeing how communities like Crenshaw in Los Angeles and Anacostia in DC have carried on and integrated this legacy of Black excellence into their very physical built environments. And in so doing, help spur creative, dynamic economies. There's a group called Destination Crenshaw. They are pioneering a 1.3 mile long corridor public arts exhibit that they are calling the largest Black cultural outdoor museum in the country. There's going to be over 100 art projects, and Destination Crenshaw has woven in numerous kind of opportunities for economic mobility as part of this. Closer to home, in Anacostia, right next door, the Anacostia BID and DC District of Columbia partnered to create the Art to Go-Go District. Art to Go-Go District builds off 10 years of anti-displacement work. And today, you can't walk across Anacostia without seeing a mural representing the Black excellence, without seeing the 4 new sit-down restaurants that have opened, all by local restaurateurs, without seeing and engaging in opportunities to play and gather throughout the year. These experiences, these visions in Crenshaw and Anacostia demonstrate that it's possible to both meet economic goals, like building our county's overall prosperity and tax base, while prioritizing allowing current residents and communities to stay and to thrive. And we have the opportunity to create a similar vision in the Blue Line corridor. We have the opportunity to represent and tell the story in the physical environment of the way that the Ridgely family, post-slavery, used their skills in farming to build economic opportunity for their family, but also their broader community. We have the opportunity to tell the history of our municipality, Fairmont Heights, where residents organized to form their own municipality to ensure that Black residents got the services that they deserved. And we also have the opportunity and the chance to take advantage of the $1 billion of planned investment coming into this corridor to add housing in a variety of forms, to prioritize redevelopment in the way that meets community needs, and to invest in our local small businesses and residents. So later this year, with our partners, the Capital Market, who you'll hear from shortly, we are launching the Blue Line Corridor Coalition. And I want to end just by giving a few invitations to each of our county executive candidates here today. The first one is to come join us at the table and help us shape this vision alongside local residents, small business owners, anchors, and more. The second is support adding more housing. We need housing density, we need housing diversity, and we need to prioritize affordability. Everyone in this room knows safe, healthy, affordable homes is foundational to individual thriving and to the creation of vibrant neighborhoods. And I think we also need to encourage creative thinking around how to streamline development for projects that meet county goals and community goals. Number 3, We got to prioritize walkable urban environments around Metro. Bernard hit on this, and I will as well. And we got to do so in a way that amplifies the sense of place and culture of those areas. Fun fact about walkability. Did you know that 20% of US GDP occurs in walkable environments? If anyone wants the number, that's $5 trillion. $5 trillion of GDP occurs in walkable environments in our country. If the county wants to grow its tax base, this is where it has to start. And lastly, we got to invest in the community development ecosystem. The list of partners who are hosting this event and who are in this room have shown throughout history that if you're looking for an industry that can match and bring economic goals together with community priorities and deliver real impact, this is the industry. If I can end, I'll just tell a quick anecdote. Last month, I had the chance to tour the Blue Line corridor with one of our vice presidents. We drove around. She got to meet some of our partners. She has a particular kind of fondness for the corridor because it's actually the place that she bought her first home about 20 years ago. And she said something that has stuck with me. She said, one thing I remember then, 20 years ago, and now, were all the coming soon signs. Coming soon for 20 years. Residents of the Blue Line, residents of Prince George's County, they're done with coming soon. All right, we're ready to take action. And I believe that together we can transform the Blue Line corridor into a vibrant and prosperous corridor that represents the Black excellence of that community, of those communities in the broader county, that meets our county's economic development goals and allows and even encourages our residents and the local communities to stay and to thrive. I invite all of you to join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian, for helping to frame the opportunity, like the very unique opportunity that exists and presents ourselves to us to really craft a new vision and a new future for what economic development in Prince George's looks like. But a really key part of making that happen isn't just about creating a financing structure and finding outside partners to help build the capacity of Prince Georgians to participate in this work. But it's also about reclaiming some of our historic and special places. In most of our established communities inside the Beltway, especially ones that are south of Route 50, we don't have lots of examples of successful transit-oriented development. We don't have lots of successful examples of neighborhood revitalization. And that doesn't mean that those communities don't have value, don't have worth, and don't have assets. But a big part of activating that promise and potential is finding ways to help both residents themselves and others to see the incredible possibilities that exist through the arts, health and wellness, green jobs, and other elements to not only create new business opportunities, but to also improve the quality of life of residents. And part of it's by making more of our neighborhoods exciting, dynamic places to live, work, and play, where they have more programming, where there's more art and public spaces and public plazas. And a really amazing new nonprofit organization that's been advancing this work is the Capital Market. Started by some of the descendants of the Ridgely family that Brian Franklin just talked about. The Capital Market is both a farmer's market and a community development policy and action tank that has worked in several of the communities that I'm talking about to help bring healthy food, to help talk with local municipalities about how to expand and diversify their efforts to define and attract investment, and to also talk with lots of our neighbors about how we can take ownership and control of directing the conversation of how we want development to happen in our backyards. And so with that, I wanted to invite Kyle Reeder, who's one of the co-founders and leaders of the Capital Market, to talk a little bit more about how placemaking, programming is really important to activating this vision of the future.
Good afternoon, Prince George's County. That's what one more time. Good afternoon, Prince George's County. That's what I'm talking about. I need that energy. You know, I'm an extrovert, so I feed off other people. But Again, it's an absolute honor to stand before you all today as a proud advocate for bold, visionary leadership, leadership deeply committed to the success and prosperity of our beloved county. We gather here today because we believe in the crown jewel that is Prince George's County, a jewel that shines brightly with economic promise, grows equitably with opportunity for all, and stands as a model for excellence within our region. My name is Kyle Reeder. I am one of the founding members of the Capital Market and a lifelong sixth-generation Prince Georgian. My roots here run deep. My family's legacy is one of resilience, service, and triumph. My great-great-great-grandfather was born into slavery on the Concord Plantation, now known as Walker Mill Regional Park in Capitol Heights. After emancipation, he purchased land in Landover near what we know now as Northwest Stadium, home of our beloved Commanders. On that land, he farmed, raised his family, helped build the historic community of Ridgely, a community founded by freedmen just off of Central Avenue. It's that history which is my foundation. It is the compass that guides me as I reflect on the present and envision a future of this county we all love. Prince George's County stands at a crossroads. We are on the cusp of something transformative, something that could either propel us into the future of unprecedented opportunity or leave us stuck in the shadows of unrealized potential. This election is about ensuring that the progress we've made, the legacy of our ancestors, and the sacrifices of so many continues to uplift the next generation. I am especially energized by the extraordinary potential of the Central Avenue Blue Line Corridor, a project that could fundamentally reshape the economic and social landscape of our community. This initiative is poised to bring new businesses, entertainment hubs, infrastructure, and a vibrant public spaces right into the heart of our county. It promises jobs, economic growth, revitalized communities, but we cannot be blind to the skepticism that exists. We cannot dismiss the very real concerns of displacement and whether this development will truly serve the people that call Prince George's home today. This is why we need leadership with both vision and vigilance. Leadership that will ensure that this initiative serves as a model for inclusive prosperity, where long-term residents and new residents can come together to be able to live, work, and thrive without the looming fear of being pushed out. We need a county executive who will partner with grassroots organizations and prioritize policies that foster equitable growth from within. Organizations like the Capital Market have been doing this work. As a community-led nonprofit, the Capital Market uses food systems and cultural capital to revitalize neighborhoods through advocacy, education, small business support, sustainable land use development. We imagine a county where every resident has access to healthy food, affordable housing, and opportunities to reach their fullest potential. A county that honors its history while building an environment that's vibrant, safe, and engaging for all generations. Our work focuses on 3 pillars: small business development, community-led research, and creative placemaking. These aren't just buzzwords. Through these efforts, we've delivered over 150 community events, workshops, and activations that have supported local businesses and farms. We've brought fresh produce to families facing food insecurity and breathed new life into underutilized spaces while honoring the heritage that defines these communities. With support from our partners at LISC, we've launched a turnip tour, bringing pop-up farmers markets to Sea Pleasant, Capitol Heights, and Fairmont Heights along the Blue Line Corridor. We've trained over 30 residents through our Blue Line Corridor Civic Leadership Institute, empowering them to engage in zoning, transportation, and community development issues. And with your support, We aim to launch the Blue Line Corridor Coalition to coordinate development efforts that reflect our shared values. Working with organizations like RISE, Prince George's, we've advocated for policies that prioritize public transportation, walkable urban streets, and smart growth. We've led community walk audits that highlight transit-oriented development opportunities around Capitol Heights and Addison Road metro stations. Audits that reveal dangerous street designs that are challenges we must address to keep our roads safe for not only drivers, but cyclists and pedestrians alike. This is the work that moves communities forward. And these are the kind of efforts we need to support if we want to usher in a new era for Prince George's County. But this work requires leadership that values community input, understands the complexities of development, and has the foresight to build for future generations. We need a county executive who will invest in small businesses and initiatives like the capital market to grow our economy from within. Collaborate with advocacy groups like Rise Prince George's to implement smart growth policies that reflect the community's needs. Develop the Blue Line Corridor with investors that are committed to creating affordable housing, generating jobs, and fostering opportunity without displacement. This election is more than just a contest of candidates. It's about our collective future. The choice we make will determine whether we continue to rise together or whether we allow others to shape the destiny of our county without our voice. I stand here today hopeful. I stand here today ready. And I stand here asking you to join with me in this work that honors the legacy of our ancestors while laying the foundation for future generations to come. Let us choose leaders who see the brilliance of this crown jewel, who are prepared to polish it until it shines for everyone to see. Together, we can rise, together, we can build, and together, we can ensure that Prince George's County remains a beacon of opportunity, innovation, and inclusive prosperity for years to come. Thank you all for your time, your trust, and your partnership. Now let's get to work.
Thank you, Kyle, for those sage words. One of the things Mr. Reeder mentioned when talking about the work of the capital market is that their aim is to take the $400 million of our taxpayer money that Prince Georgians and other other residents of the state of Maryland have put forward to help invest in whatever comes next after Northwest Stadium to make the Blue Line Corridor happen. And part of what he was talking about is the importance of creating an enduring coalition and compact of organizations, small businesses, and residents that are working to make that vision turn into a reality. And while that work is important to activate and catalyze in central and southern Prince George's, part of what's so exciting is that we actually have a predecessor or a template for how to make some of that community partnership work come together in the Purple Line Corridor Coalition, which is a project of the University of Maryland Center for Smart Growth, and has been working for over 10 years now, since its compact was first created to help convene community-based organizations from Langley Park and Silver Spring, all the way to New Carrollton, to make sure that the promise of a new light rail line that connects New Carrollton to Bethesda doesn't just benefit people on one side of that divide, but benefits people across that divide. So I want to invite Sheila Somaskar from the Purple Line Corridor Coalition to come up here and talk more about their work and talk more about some of the tools that they've been using to help make sure that new development and growth around our new transit stations along the Purple Line is inclusive, mixed income, and is something that offers a pathway for small businesses and existing residents to participate in the growth and change. Sheila.
Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Pastor Mike, for hosting us. Thank you, Cheryl, for organizing the same event. Thank you so much for making the time to be here and hear from all of us. My name is Sheila Somashaker. I am director of Purple Line Corridor Coalition, which again is based at the University of Maryland's National Center for Smart Growth. But we are a collaborative that's broad, that includes nonprofits, public agencies, elected officials, businesses, really focused on how we can drive equitable growth along this new transit line. Many of you are familiar with the Purple Line. You probably hit construction as you were on your way in today. But it is a 16-mile light rail project that's now under construction. 11 of those stations, of the 21 stations, are in Prince George's County. The project is supposed to be completed in 2027, so we are on the home stretch here, hopefully, and looking forward to riding those Purple Line trains. But our work as a coalition is really focused on a response to the line. The Purple Line was approved with the expectation that it was going to bring transformative investment and growth across the entire region. That means different things in different places and to different communities. And so our work is really about how you harness that change to drive benefits to communities that might otherwise be displaced, to really generate the kind of investment that communities might have been looking for a long time. I've heard a lot of people here in the Riverdale community, for example, talk about wanting a sit-down restaurant. How can we use the Purple Line to bring the kinds of change that people are really looking for? So that's what our work is about. And it is a multi-billion-dollar investment, so we really have to hold good on that promise. And so the Purple Line Corridor Coalition has been around for about a decade, and we have been growing and expanding our efforts. I'm going to share a few quick stats with you. The Purple Line Corridor across both counties is home to about 180,000 people. When you're talking about housing, about a quarter of the multifamily rental homes across the corridor that don't have affordability restrictions on them right now are actually affordable to households that are earning below $72,000 a year. That was about 60% of area median income in 2019. 2/3 of multifamily rental properties were built before 1980. 1/3 of them were built before 1960. And there's no zip code along the corridor that has a median home value below $350,000 a year. So when you're talking about addressing the housing needs along a transit corridor like the Purple Line, the picture is really complex. Yes, it is about growth and density, and but it's also about housing quality and stability and investment in the people that are here now. So we have a housing action plan that I'd be happy to share with any of you that outlines 7 different actions that get us to a goal of no net loss of homes that are affordable to households earning below $72,000 a year. And the strategies encompass housing production, housing preservation, raising capital, home ownership preservation, new home ownership opportunities that are more attainable, and supporting communities to participate in their housing ecosystems. It can be really difficult to participate in our ecosystems that are around us. So our work is really about convening folks to execute on that plan. We do everything from provide development consultations. So you might have a market rate development that's coming into the community. How do you support those projects to maximize the opportunity for affordability? It's to package the financing and to make it all work to commit to that affordability. In 2024, we provided 223 technical assistance consultations across the corridor. We also support engagement and policy. We engage 17 community-based groups to help inform policy priorities this year that cover everything from the budget for housing, from driving resources to the Purple Line Corridor, to home ownership preservation. So our work is about executing on a vision for equitable housing along the entire corridor, but it's also about supporting and strengthening great places. We know that the Purple Line Corridor has many communities that are really amazing right now, and we have in the Riverdale community here the award-winning jollof rice at Queensway Restaurant around the corridor, or Pupuseria El Comalito is another restaurant that is building a regional empire with locations in Riverdale and Tacoma Langley, as well as Silver Spring. These are small businesses that are contributing to a sense of community and identity along in their neighborhoods and beyond. And we want to support them to thrive. So we have a small business action team that is focusing on supporting local businesses to survive construction disruption and to really benefit from change at the end of the day when the light rail brings a new market of transit riders. And so supporting businesses through that transformation and supporting them to take leadership in their own communities as well. Pedestrian access is also a key element of creating great places. We are lifting up sort of what are, our corridor was not designed for people to walk. And so how do you transition from a car-centric suburban community into a community where people really can walk and roll to the Purple Line station and to the changing communities around them. And as the speakers before me, Brian and Kyle, were sharing before, cultural identities of the communities and arts and culture have a really important role to play. We have been supporting community-based groups with design capacity provided by faculty and students at the University of Maryland to support led efforts to support creative placemaking in local communities. So our work is about this kind of snake, this purple line, the 16-mile corridor, and the communities within about a mile of the line. But our work is also about lifting all boats. And so we want to see, and it's about finding the wins, finding our way to the wins, even in challenging circumstances. And so, first and foremost, our focus is on the communities along the line, but it is also about lifting up the entire county and the entire region through the solutions that we're investing in. So I wanted to share two quick examples of policy efforts that have originated with efforts in the Purple Line corridor, but have benefits to the entire county. One is the county's right of first refusal program. That's a policy that was on the books for a long time, but was not in use because it didn't have teeth as a policy. There was new attention on this policy from a lot of housing advocates in the county. And then resources came in. We had through participation of the Purple Line Corridor Coalition with leadership from Kaiser Permanente. We brought in resources to the county to help unpack how do you make that an operational tool. And it became a tool that has now preserved thousands of units in the corridor by putting negotiating power in the hands of the county when development happens. When a multifamily property goes for sale, when it's over a certain size, the county has the right to first give that purchase right to a group of approved developers, such as HIP, that they know that they can work with to negotiate affordability and support the community. So that's one example of a tool that has prevented displacement in the Purple Line corridor, but is a tool that is now in use across the entire county. Another example is a homeownership preservation program, which emerged from a Purple Line champion, a local elected leader, was really pushing for this with ARPA money that had come to the county, and it's a pot of money that the county has to invest in homeowner repair and for homeowners that might struggle with repairs. That program started with a Purple Line priority, but is a program that is now available to the entire county. And so again, we're here to find the wins for the Purple Line, but also for the county more generally. And we are really excited right now about local government and making local government work. This is a really important moment. The stakes are high, and we're just really honored to be here with all of you, and really looking forward to working with our new county executive to achieve equity along the Purple Line corridor and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Our next speaker is going to be someone who I think helps complete a little bit of a full circle as it relates to creating new communities and creating dynamic visions for vibrant, inclusive spaces, not just in Maryland, but around the country. Because David Bowers, who is about to speak next, works at an organization called Enterprise Community Partners. And for a lot of you who are not in our audience, many of you may not know that the person who founded Enterprise Community Partners, which is a national foundation and nonprofit that's committed to expanding affordable housing across the country, it was founded by James Rouse, who is the developer of both Columbia and the National Harbor, and for folks that are Prince George's residents, Landover Mall, which was the first indoor mall in the United States, and if it was still around, probably should be historically designated by now. But one of the results of James Rouse's legacy, which we helped build, which we helped invest in, which our commerce at those stores helped support, has created a legacy of national work to help invest in supporting communities all over the country, bring public and private sector capital together to build affordable housing in many different places where it hasn't been. And one of the things that Enterprise is doing, both here in Prince George's and across the state, is developing programs and initiatives to help many different organizations, including churches like the one that we're in, work and think differently about how to use their property and their assets to catalyze housing development in their own backyards. And so with that, I wanted to invite David Bowers to come up and talk more about what Enterprise has been doing in the county, both now and in the future.
Many thanks, Bernard. Good afternoon to everyone. It is good to see you all here. We appreciate it. To the co-sponsoring groups, I want to say a thank you on behalf of Enterprise to Pastor Dixon and the folks at Solid Rock Church for hosting us. We appreciate you all practicing that great commandment. So we thank you all for that. To our MC, Bernard, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And want to thank all the candidates for taking the time, those who are here to make it out, to be a part of this briefing. We know you all have a lot to do as you seek this public service. So we thank you all for being here, all the candidates. Prince George's County's own comprehensive housing opportunities for all plan prioritizes, and I quote, strategies that develop housing for all and benefits the healthy social and economic development of the entire county, end quote. In the last few years, the county executive and administration, the council, and the community have worked together to create some excellent housing programs that also support the economic sustainability in the county. Enterprise, my colleagues and I are proud to have supported efforts big and small, from the Purple Line implementation we heard Sheila talk about, to the Opportunities for All working group, to rent stabilization research, just to name a few. We have seen how hard Prince George's is working to make housing possible for more current and future residents and workers, for families, and for seniors. As others have also said today, prior speakers, things like the right of first refusal, the Housing Trust Fund, the current faith-based development initiative, tenant protections, and other programs and resources are all parts of the solutions that have to be brought to bear and work in the county. Expanding choices, locations, types of housing, regardless of income, is fundamental to a healthy community. It's also good for employers, small businesses, and everyone who calls Prince George's County home. I hope that everything that you all have heard today reinforces how important it is to build on current success and to ensure that we expand and improve on housing affordability, quality, and access in the future. Whatever your vision for Prince George's County is, we hope that housing choice and affordability are essential to achieving it. I want to end my remarks with a little kind of personal testimony here for the candidates. So one of the things that a lot of times there are arguments about, I started my professional career working in the office of former Senator Barbara Mikulski. And I used to work at a church that was about a mile up Good Luck Road, Amistad St. Paul, United Church of Christ. So while I'm a DC boy, I'm a resident of the region, right? So I got a lot of love for Prince George's County and a lot of experience. And I remember when working for Senator Mikulski's office, there was a meeting that was held with leadership, the county. And I know that over the years, there's been some wrestling with what does it mean to support affordable housing? Do we want it? Do we not want it? Well, let me give you a quick behind the veil that a lot of people don't want to acknowledge. All housing is affordable. All housing is affordable. The question is to whom? The question is to whom? So now my personal connect is, I just came back from Shreveport, Louisiana, for the funeral of my uncle, Joe Shine, who served on the council down in Shreveport, Louisiana. And my uncle used to say to me for many years, and as people came up, the current mayor, past mayor, other folks to recognize the life he had lived, Democrats, Republicans, all these people, we recall the saying that he used to say. He said, "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." So to those who are running to serve as county executive or to serve on the council, we ask the question, all my colleagues and I, the question is, how much fight you got in you? And who you fighting for? How much fight you got in you? And who are you fighting for? There's a lot of fight going on in the world right now. So what we need for whoever's going to serve is somebody who's got vision, a plan, compassion, character, and as my late mother used to say, son, have some backbone. Have some backbone. So we hope that as you've heard from all these folks who are working for a community that embraces all, regardless of whether you're making 20,000 or 200,000, right? A community that is welcoming to all people, regardless of their income, for housing, for opportunities for jobs, for culture. What you've heard here today is people who are on the front line working. Get to know us, get with us, and we'll get with you to try and further and advance those causes so that people don't get left out and left behind. Because rest assured, there are folk who are fighting hard who ain't got their interests at heart. So how much fight you got in you and who you fighting for? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David, for that rousing sermon to wrap up our stakeholder presentations. And where David kind of left us is, I think, the right landing spot to finish before we get to our candidates. Because, quiet to keep it very, very real with everybody, both in person and online. We here in Prince George's are in for a fight. I don't have to make grand threats or create false crisis for people to understand the reality of the job losses that are currently and projected to happen, not just in this region and around the country. Not just because people in the federal government might lose their job, but because other small businesses, other contractors, and other community residents that benefit from the multiplier effect of people having jobs and spending money locally and regionally are also going to exit our economy. So this is a moment where we not only need to fight, but we also need to get unstuck. And so I think one of the closing messages I want to leave you all with before our candidates speak is I'd encourage everyone, both with us here in person and especially looking at us online, to take a look at a new book that is, I think, on the New York Times bestseller list, written by a gentleman named Yoni Applebaum. It's called Stuck. And it's a simple title, but it sums up a really complex problem, which is how lots of well-meaning and well-intentioned attempts to make the ability to regulate and structure how land use and development happens has literally resulted in us producing way too little housing for almost the entirety of my lifetime, to the point that not just in the DC area, but across the country, people from $20,000 to almost $200,000 all struggle to ensure that their housing costs are a third or less of their income, which is what Susie Orman and every personal finance expert would tell you is what you should be spending on everyone's most basic and fundamental expense. And the importance of us finding a way to get unstuck in terms of building housing for people at all income levels is essential to the future of Prince George's. Not only because new housing development creates additional tax revenue and takes land that might have been unproductive and brings it to a productive use on the rolls, but as we create more housing for people at every level of the income spectrum, we make the collective housing costs of everyone in the market go down. And part of what that does is create more disposable income that our residents can use to improve their quality of life, to invest in asset building and continuing education for them and their families, and to leave behind a legacy of income and wealth to weather tough economic times and to spark new dreams. But the ability to make all of this prosperity and promise possible is contingent on choices that we have to face in the next 4 years. Choices that we have to make about permitting and regulation of housing development, where we really need to make a way so it's easier for Pastor Dixon and his congregation to advance the mission of Solid Rock Church by building housing on this site, which is literally going to be right along a Purple Line rail station. By making it possible for a unique asset that Prince George's has. We have lots of mission-driven, faith-based organizations across our county, but especially inside the Beltway, that want to do great things. And to be clear, just like everyone else that's frustrated with our permitting process, they are too. And we should make it easier for them and for existing homeowners to build accessory dwelling units and other attainable housing on their property to try to make it so we have more homes and more places. And if we do it the right way, we can also ensure that there's a greater diversity of housing types and aesthetics so that people can see more than just the same prefab townhouses that nobody wants more of. But in addition to those permitting and regulatory changes, we also need funding investments. We have a housing investment trust fund, but that's a legacy of pandemic relief era money from the federal government that is currently expiring. And the county during the past 6 years of the Alston-Brooks administration has activated a right of first refusal tool that the county and local residents can use so that people that live in apartment buildings can go through a process if someone outside the county wants to purchase that building, where those residents could take ownership and turn that rental housing into a cooperative ownership housing. But in order to do that, we need to build tools and infrastructure and capacity and funding mechanisms to make that possible that we don't have right now. And so the essentialness of actually taking and confronting our housing issues is top of mind and really indispensable for our future, because if we don't do that, we'll never be able to make progress activating new places, because we won't have enough neighbors to shop at the grocery stores that want customers not just between 5 and 9, Monday through Friday and on the weekends, but want customers 24/7, 7 days a week, which means we need to take the parking lots around Branch Avenue and build lots more housing around. Part of what we also need to do to advance the concept of placemaking and activating new development is to make sure that the county takes some of its limited resources and invest in the development of communities that have been left behind. We need to put some of our sweat equity and skin into the game to create a Main Street program to support new and emerging small business corridors in places where entrepreneurs and business owners haven't had the support of marketing or security and community stewardship resources to make those places better, and programming to get people out of their houses to come together for activity and festivals and farmers markets and other dynamic programming that in our new post-COVID reality is really essential for creating economic activity in local communities. And finally, we need to continue improving our transportation infrastructure. And even though we have limited resources in the county, we probably will in the coming years eventually have fund balance resources that we could put towards implementing our complete streets like policy in all of our major transit areas, and to also take the money that we've already gotten from the federal government to start the process of building the Central Avenue Connector Trail, which is a really essential multimodal link to connect a lot of the communities along to Central Avenue and East Capitol Street in DC, all the way out to like Largo and the center of downtown Prince George's in the future. Ultimately, the policy solutions and prescriptions to move us forward aren't controversial, but they require community building and effort. And that's why I want to thank all of our partners who are a multi-sector coalition of bankers, builders, churches, and community activists that have come together to say, we need to define and chart our future vision of housing and economic prosperity in ways that go beyond simply rent stabilization and senior housing subsidies. Because ultimately, if we're going to shift the conversation about how to make Prince George's a place that is welcome, inclusive, and growing for all, we need to take ownership and take agency in how we drive Prince George's solutions to those problems. And so with that, I wanted to thank everybody for coming, and I wanted to give us a chance to hear from some of our candidates that are in attendance. I'm going to introduce each candidate for county executive. I think we just have county executive candidates in the audience in order of their names alphabetically. So we're going to start with Marcellus Cruz.
Use this up a little bit. How y'all doing? Listen, I thoroughly enjoyed everything that I heard, and I think the candidates that are here today are positioned to hear the work that you've been doing. And I'm going to say something, and I'm not going to be controversial, but I'm just going to say the facts. Right now, we are at the brink where we can have a renaissance here in Prince George's County. We really can. But it's going to require you all to choose the candidate or, the candidate that's going to bring that. And I'm going to say this, not because I'm in this bunch, but the candidates that are not elected currently, they have the potential to bring the change that you so seek. Now, why would I say that? Because we all live here. We all understand what we see and hear. And, if you've been in office, we can kind of see what you're about, what you're going to do. And typically, if you've been in office, you're part of the process. If you want change, you got to choose someone outside of that process. Let's just keep it real. And so I'm just saying that straight. With that being said, my name is Marcellus Cruz, and I originally grew up in Huntsville, Alabama, and I'm bringing that up for a reason. How many people have been to Huntsville, Alabama? Okay. I grew up in a middle-class town. Everyone was doing well. I didn't see a lot of poverty growing up. We had NASA, Redstone. We had several universities. And so I learned as I matriculated that you don't have to see diverse poverty and riches. And so that has stayed with me all of my life. Now, what am I doing now? I run a company called Cruising Technologies. And Cruising Technologies, we have been in the forefront of business when it comes to building, technology, integration. That's what we've been doing. We're in embassies, we're in healthcare companies, we work with other construction companies, but that's what we've been doing. We integrate the whole thing, and we're a state vendor. So we do a lot of conference rooms. We're known for our home theaters, though. You can just talk to our home theater. You can just walk in and just start talking. But 4.8 rating, and we do a lot of blueprints, and so we have really immersed ourselves within the community. We've been in over 6,000 homes. And the point I'm making is, I've seen a lot, and it's time for change. When you talk about economic development and you talk about what's coming, in our forums, I talk about this all the time. I should be able to put on my flip-flops, come down, and go to the flower shop or go to the coffee shop. We don't do that here in Prince George's County for some reason. I don't get it. I don't understand it. He broke down how we're talking about $2 trillion we're missing out on because we're not building that way. And I think it's time that we build where we have a mixture, condos on the top, some office spaces dispersed throughout. And we have the stores, and we bring a lot of our businesses into those spaces. We have the largest registered small businesses of any county. And we're not utilizing that superpower at all. And so I loved everything that I heard, and I believe it's just time that we actually get this thing right. And I have the backbone to get it done. All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Our next candidate is Albert Slocum.
Good evening. I'm Albert Slocum, running for county exec. I promise I won't keep you all here for 5 hours. There are some things that stood out, and you all must have been at my forum because verbatim, prioritizing, first right of refusal, infrastructure, advocacy, history, culture, identity. These are the many things I've talked about. As far as home value, bold leadership, the grit to fight. And let me tell you what the connections are with all this regarding my background. I'm originally from Bridgeport, Connecticut. And for those of you who understand what that looks like as far as development and a lack of development, as far as politics and a lack of politics, as far as corruption and corruption, not a lack of it, but corruption. It's the tri-state area, not too far from New York, Brooklyn, New York, Bronx, New York, Co-op City. And things have changed since I grew up there, since the late 60s up until now, but it's taken that long. And as the gentleman mentioned so eloquently, why is it taking so long? Coming soon, all this coming soon. Why? We need something now. And with you all, the talent from the local businesses, developers, builders, bankers, all of qualified professionals. That's what I'm talking about. I have a background, a deep background from corporate America for 30 years combined in banking, insurance, real estate, HRD, you name it. All the relevance that we need as far as running this county. And I believe I'm the only candidate as far as getting things up and running and understanding those numbers, return on our equity, return on our investment, right? Internal rate of return, all these things. We can get technical. Like I said, I'm not gonna keep you guys here too long, but you get the point that I'm making here. There are other things also that I wanted to point out. We have a deficit of $171 million. The question is, no matter how many relationships we have, we're still going to have the cycle of going into further debt unless we bring smart people to the table, whether that's private equity, private placement. Let's speak that lingo. The elected officials that are running for office and they're trying to play those musical chairs getting back into office, if they figured it out as far as the solution to the problem, they would have already done it. So we already know we're going to just kind of skip that, all right? But as far as the other candidates who have not been elected and are not politicians, like we basically, talk the talk, walk the walk. We know our stuff. We understand it. And I can't speak thoroughly on their behalf. I'm sure, the opportunity will present itself, but I can speak thoroughly on my behalf. And I'm willing to work with you all from a partnership standpoint because we need that. And enough is enough as far as talk. Now, I mentioned to you all that I grew up in Bridgeport, but there's more to that. I got tired of being tired. I grew up in the public school system, and I've seen people struggle from food insecurities to poor housing, deplorable conditions. Now, I grew up in the projects with 10 brothers and sisters like myself, including myself, with one parent. Now look at me. I've been through the storm. I can't say any other candidate who knows how to get through things and really get it done and be through the storm. Okay. I grew up in public schools. I went to a vocational technical trade school and a real vocational technical trade school, not just offering courses, but a big, huge corridor with 3 wings. And we were taught plumbing, carpentry, beauty culture, culinary arts, technology, you name it, auto mechanic. What I'm saying with that is that we need that kind of forward thinking. Okay, we need blue collar and we need white collar. We need to bring folks together to make this work. And I'm that person to build those relationships, and I'm willing to work with each and every one of you. With my background in real estate development, straight out of NYU, with my background in human resource development, straight out of BSU, my background in finance, straight out of Howard. I bring not only just corporate experience, but education and exposure to life. I've been there, I've been in your shoes. For those who are working class, working poor, homeless, or housing insecurities, seniors, I've seen it. And now I want to put it to work here in Prince George's County. And I believe that I can do that effectively with your help as we work together. So I would love to speak to those who are interested in building that relationship and partnership after we leave from here. Thank you. I'm Albert Slocum, running for county executive. I hope to get your support and partnership as well.
Thank you, Mr. Slocum. Last but certainly not least, Tanya Sweat.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for inviting us to this presentation. This has been phenomenal. You're the people I've been looking for. I'm probably going to be the most controversial candidate today, and I'll tell you why. I'm sure you have seen and heard my big mouth in other forums, and I am definitely about smart growth and development. I have concerns about how the county has been developed. There was definitely a lack of planning. I have concerns about how we've allowed developers to come in, because having been here for a while, I know Maryland was considered the last Sebastian of raw land to build. And it was a great investment, and that investment was made. Those who invested got their return and they left. And they don't like me saying it, but I have to be honest. The builders build, the developers develop, they get their money once they sell, and they're gone. Now we have communities with narrow streets and a lot of traffic, and it ain't working. We have communities, I live out in Accokeek, I suffered this fate. Communities with new homes and new families, and the schools aren't big enough. We have communities now with homes and families, but we don't have the ability to provide the services that they need. And so I'm excited to hear that we have residents of the county, residents, long-time residents of Prince George's County who want to work on doing this thing better, because we have to do it better. Why am I controversial? Well, I'm going to be controversial because I've said, and I'm sticking to it, I want to keep the commanders here, so that's going to present a challenge. And I want to keep the commanders because we need to spark tourism, and we don't have any other attractions here in Prince George's County to do that. Six Flags just ain't going to get it. I'm sorry. We have to use what we have to attract visitors. And the commanders works for me because I don't mind sharing. I'm from a football family. My son played college ball on a scholarship. He's now an assistant football coach at a university in Ohio. So I know that culture. And my family, over the last 4.5 years, invested a lot of money in other communities following our son. We literally went to every one of his games, home or away. And he was in college up in Pittsburgh. I've left my money in Alabama, Michigan, Tennessee, Kentucky. I want my money back. The way we can spark our revenue and diversify it so that we're not constantly depending on homeowners and their taxes is to have an attraction that will bring others here. So they want to come and spend their money with us and go home. The only thing we got right now in our toolkit is the Commanders. But the problem is this. Folk come in on Sunday for the game. They watch the game. They eat at the stadium. They drink at the stadium. They get in their cars and they go home. What do we get? 10% sales tax on the tickets that they buy. That's the law. That's all we get. Now, falling back on my own experience, we would leave on Fridays for a Saturday game. That means I got to get a hotel, got to have some place to eat. If we didn't drive our car, now I got to use a taxi cab or I got to Uber. I got to get to that game. After the game on Saturdays, we're usually tired. So we're going to stay Saturday night. We're going to come home on Sunday. So that's why I say I left a lot of my money in other places. We have to do that here. We can build around that. And I want to build around that because that's how we encourage people to come here and stay. And I'm glad you're here. And I want you at the table in my administration because you will help us build affordable, income-based housing for those. Yes, sir. What's affordable for me is not necessarily affordable for you. So we've got to build houses for everybody to live around that stadium. We can revitalize. We got 3 co-ops over there that need to be revitalized so that they can stay there. And I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of your organizations and us being creative to make Prince George's County a livable and vibrant community where we can attract people to come in and visit with us and spend with us so that we can continue to grow and expand. So again, thank you for having me. I look forward to sharing more ideas with you and you sharing your ideas with me because I think we can do this. And if you want to know about backbone, I was in the military. I ain't got no choice. And I served under the Obama administration during the Great Recession. I helped write the Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act of 2010. You want to talk about backbone? I had to fight bankers. So I say, let's join hands. Let's lock arms. Let's do this.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sweat, and to all the candidates for coming and join us. I just wanted to take one quick moment. Are there any candidates here that I've missed? Seeing none, I'm going to take that motion as granted. And as we draw to the conclusion of today's events, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge something that's been a through line between everybody's comments, which is the importance of staying in the fight. Like we started Rise Prince George's 5 years ago to really show and demonstrate to all members of our community and especially to our civic and political leaders that there's a real constituency that wants to demand this kind of smart, thoughtful, and strategic economic development to push Prince George's County forward. And we can't do this without you. Both the folks that are here in this room and the folks that are online, we're so glad that you came out and joined us, but we need more folks to be involved. So invite a friend to join our mailing list. Make sure to be a part of our action alerts. For some people, both candidates and community members that are excited by what we're doing, come and talk to some of our speakers, as well as Cheryl and I, about how you can get involved with our steering committee efforts and attempts to plan future events to not only engage in public education, but to build a stronger and more broad-based coalition to push for the change that we all need. Because housing isn't just something that is a necessity for everyone. It's something that we should make a right, just like healthcare for everyone. And make it something that functionally is present and affordable and accessible in the lives of more of our neighbors. Thank you all so very much. I hope you have a great day and looking forward to continuing to have a thriving, rising Prince George's County.